What's up, y'all? Sparty here. Now, for this video, what I want to do is I want to talk about a few tips and whatnot for the Xperia One Mark III. Now, I've had this phone for almost a month now, and if you saw my review, you would know that I love this phone quite a bit. Yeah, we'll get into this right now. A few things to know right off the bat: 4,500 milliamp hour battery, Snapdragon 888, 512 gigabytes of storage for this particular model. Dual SIM for this particular model as well. You could also just swap out that SIM. That you could also just put an SD card in the secondary SIM slot if you want expandable storage. And I have a 1 terabyte card in here. Um, yeah, I pretty much kitted this phone out because I knew I was going to use this phone for quite a bit of time. And I want to get into what I feel this phone really does, what you can do with this phone to really get the most out of it. And for one, I want to talk about things like the battery care and all that stuff as well. I have it on auto. Now, typically, what that will do is it'll suggest a time that it'll fully charge the phone, and it'll charge it up all the way to 90%, and then it'll just wait until it's around the time that it says it's going to fully charge the phone and fully charge it to 100%. 90% battery is honestly adequate for this phone most of the time. It's not terrible. You could also just go to always, and you can set the charging limit to 90%, and you could do it like that, or even 80%, like you guys saw there. Phones like the S21 Ultra on the end on One UI 4 now allow you to do that, but before that, pretty much only this phone is is the only phone I knew of that was able to do that. It's nice that other manufacturers are starting to do this, but I would always keep the battery care on because honestly, it's what helps this phone a lot in battery situations, in my personal opinion. Um, Now, display. Another thing that I do want to talk about: image quality settings. Keep it on creator mode. Standard mode's fine, but creator mode, you get the display overall just gets brighter. It looks best for content, especially if the content you are watching is recorded by a Sony camera, where there's like no artifacting whatsoever. Even on YouTube, I've watched videos that are recorded on Sony cameras and there's like literally no artifacting. I looked over to the OnePlus 9, tried to find the same thing, and there was artifacting like quite a bit. Very nice. Auto brightness as well is something that you can indeed set. This display gets quite bright. It's not the brightest thing out there. I know people had that sort of problem when it came to the previous phone, the One Mark II, but I feel like this display gets pretty damn bright. And you could also just set adaptive brightness on. I feel like Sony has one of the better adaptive brightness modes because it doesn't always just change depending on, it doesn't instantly change depending on how much light is in the area. It takes a little bit, whereas every time, say on an iPhone, when I would just slightly change the slightly shift or something, the auto brightness would trigger and lower the brightness of the display. Something that is something that I just don't like. I don't have all adaptive brightness on, mainly because I just prefer to have manual control over it. But I do feel like this phone does very good with its adaptive brightness. And yeah, set your adjust your brightness level here too. Your screen timeout, I have it to just do 10 minutes. You can do display size and your font size. This takes full advantage of this beautiful 4K display, and it honestly just makes everything just look. It gives you more room overall on your display. Obviously, you have your high refresh rate here. I'll get into that in a minute when I get into the gaming portion of the video, but you can set it to one. You can set it to use full 120 hertz, or you could cut it off. By default, when you get this phone, though, when you first get it and you boot it up, it will be at 60 hertz. So you're just gonna have to go into the display settings and set it to 120. You can set your white balance settings right here as well. I have it just set to do it automatically, so it's fine there. You could turn on and off side sense. By default, it's turned on, and it's pretty cool. I I just kept triggering it by mistake, so I just turned it off. Side sense is actually a pretty neat feature. Nightlight, about that. Prevent accidental operations with screen off. I don't have a problem with this, so I just turned it off. The main reason why I don't have an issue with this is because I feel like I had more of an issue with that on phones with in-display fingerprint sensors like the S21 Ultra, where it just would just trigger in my pocket no matter what, and and try to scan my thigh for a fingerprint. And this phone, I really don't have that sort of issue with, since the fingerprint sensor's on the side here. So, very nice there. Let's get into the gaming portion of this. So through the game enhancer, what you can do is what you can do here is you can make it to where games, and not even just games, other apps can also be used through this as well. Like you could put Uber and Lyft in here, and I know you're in Google Maps, and I know you're gonna ask why, and it's actually very important because this is how you access something like HS Power Control. And how you do that is say a game pops up, you press the information icon right there. Right there, you press the settings, and you see HS Power Control right here. You hit that, and as you guys can see, I have it on custom, and I just have it fully maxed out. For every game, for most games I pretty much just have it on this. I would probably advise you, because sometimes it can be a little bit shoddy, because a lot of games just don't support 240 hertz or even 120 hertz, and this is a 120 hertz display with a 240 touch sampling rate, so that's why you can set it to 240 hertz. And sometimes a few games can be a little bit hitchy, but it's not horrendous at all, in my personal opinion. So you can do that. HS Power Control. Basically, what this does is it makes it so the charger itself just powers the overall system and not the battery itself. So it bypasses things like battery throttling. It doesn't charge the phone. There are times where certain games it'll literally just add one battery percentage, right? There are other games like, say, Marvel Future Revolution, where it'll just charge slower. It depends on how demanding the game, or it'll discharge slower. It ultimately depends on the game and how demanding it is. Marvel Future Revolution is an MMORPG, so it kind of makes sense with the amount of stuff that is on the screen that would happen. Other games that it discharges slower for are games like King of Fighters All-Star, where I had it plugged into this 15-watt charger that's literally right here by my desk, and it was just discharging slower. And it wasn't like, it was maybe 1 to 2% every like 45 minutes, and that's very good. You could do other stuff like release RAM. It releases RAM in other apps and whatnot, so that the game that you are playing will utilize even more RAM and ultimately load faster and all that stuff. This does work. It actually is pretty nice. I've had games run and boot way faster at times, like say King of Fighters All-Star, like I literally just brought up, where it'll literally just boot faster and load all the stuff faster. It's actually quite nice. You could also put apps like KineMaster, Power Director. I do have Filmic in here, and I also have the APK for Videography Pro in here as well. And what I do here is I just make it to where HS Power Control is used. And I guess I could also do it to release RAM. But I'm just testing it out to see how well it works on here. It actually works pretty damn well. It's actually pretty cool. Is that it's showing you, it actually gives you videos for people using whatever app that is in here. So I guess I'll go up to Filmic again here real quick. And as you guys can see, it's showing me videos for that. And you can do more, and it'll bring you up into YouTube. Very nice. So One thing that I say you can do if you want to conserve battery life for the overall general usage of this phone, but you still want to take advantage of the 120 hertz for like something like gaming, is I would go into the display settings, I'd go to high refresh rate, I'd turn that off. Then for whatever games you want to utilize 120 hertz, I'd go into the game enhancer. Let's just do COD Mobile here real quick and go into the settings here, and you just set it to do 120 hertz or even 240 hertz if you need it, and it works very well. And it actually does fully actually utilize the 120 hertz. Other phones that have 120 hertz, and when you set it to just use 60 hertz, it'll do it for the system period. It won't allow you to, utilize 120 hertz in gaming. This phone is pretty much the only phone that I know that can do that, and that's very nice. I really do like that a lot. Let's talk camera now. You press and hold. You could either press and hold, hard press on the camera shutter button to open the camera, or typical Android, you could double click the power button and you get into the camera like that as well. So you could do that either or. You have 6 different modes here, and basic mode is basically the one I would use if you just want to use the regular video mode and you don't want to go into Cinema Pro. Auto mode is the one I typically use. It's very nice. I really do like it a lot. It's a very overall, it gives you a lot of options for things that you want to do. Say you want to turn face eye autofocus on or off. I don't understand why you would want to turn it off, but you can do that. Say you want to do stuff like adjust the exposure and all that. What you do here is you go to program auto, and you can do stuff like lock the exposure with AEL right here, or you can turn autofocus on, and this phone has very fast autofocus, so you're not gonna be hurt with that. You can adjust the exposure right here as well. Very nice. I really do like how they have this laid out. You can also have it to where you could do RAW and JPEG, just JPEG, or just RAW. So that's very nice. For the people that don't typically edit their photos, I would honestly be totally fine with just regular JPEG. I feel like Sony does a very good job with their processing. It's not overly processed like other phones, like say a Samsung or an Apple, but I feel like it does a very adequate job at keeping a photo looking natural, but also having pretty damn good detail. So yeah, that's very good there. Then for this, what I would do is I would go into the menu and I would go down to data storage is how you do your SD card. And shooting mode at launch is, I have it set to last use mode. By default, it's set to always use basic mode. Don't do that if you want to fully utilize the capabilities of this camera. But if you are in basic mode, what you can do is you can record up to 4K 30. Not the best thing in the world. If you want 4K 60, you're gonna have to use Cinematography Pro, and that does kind of suck. But honestly, I feel like the 30 FPS on here is very smooth. I don't really have any sort of issue with how it looks or anything like that. Cinema Pro. Unfortunately, you cannot set the camera shutter button to open Cinema Pro. I wonder, I've never actually tried this, but double press. I guess power button. Sorry, I'm doing this behind the camera. How the hell? I'll find that later. But I don't think you can set the power button to double tap to double press it to go into Cinema Pro either. It just automatically just goes to the Photo Pro. It would actually be nice if you could do that. I don't know if you can, but if you can, that would be nice. Cinematography Pro. This app, what you're gonna have to do with this is you're gonna have to set all your settings up right here. So say you want Sony Venice for a more like gray look, a grayish drab look, you can do that. And I don't mean drab in a bad way. It actually looks pretty damn nice. But I typically set it to NA just so I don't have to deal with any of that. Then you can set all your stuff right here. Unfortunately, if you want to switch lenses, you're going to have to start a new project for that. That does kind of suck. But another thing you can do is you can go down to 1440p. You can go to 2K on here and record videos in 2K 60 FPS. Say if you want to save some storage, but you don't necessarily you don't necessarily need 4K, you can go down to 2K on this phone, and that's very nice. You could also record in 120 FPS. So you can go right here and you can do 120 4K slow-mo, and that's very nice. No audio, obviously, but it's nice nonetheless. And you can just hard press the shutter button. You could hard press the shutter button to start recording the video, or just press the record button down there. Then you have your settings up here, and you get all your options right here. And then you have something like the Cinema Library, which is where all your Cinema Pro videos go. And I know people are like, oh, it's too much. But honestly, I feel like this is totally fine for me personally. When you do this, and what's really nice about this is what you can do is you can pick a day. You could pick a day. You could hit the settings. Sorry. You could hit this. You can hit the, let me find it here real quick. Apologies. No, that's one I literally did. But you can hit the settings right here, and you can create final film. So it'll take what it'll do is it'll ask you to select a video, whichever one is the first one, and you could just literally hit as many as you want, as many as you've recorded, and it'll automatically just stitch the video together for you. So honestly, I don't even necessarily think you need something like a video editor on this phone, unless you really want to do stuff like edit the colors and all that stuff. But if you don't want to do that and you just need to stitch stuff together, I feel like that's very nice. And also, you're gonna have to do that for other, for like say the non-videography pro, cinematography pro videos. So, yeah. That's actually very nice. I really do like that feature a lot. Other things I would say to do, honestly, I really don't know. Like, I honestly feel like this phone is ultimately going to be tailored to you. I feel like, and for me personally, this is just how I like it being set up. It's honestly going to depend on you. This is just some things I've figured out over the past month of having this very nice phone, and what I've honestly have already said is my phone of the year. I know people are probably going to say that you had the S21 Ultra. Why do you say that? It's because the S21 Ultra doesn't give me everything that I want out of a phone. This gives me the vast majority of what I want out of a phone. The only thing that I wish it had is I wish that the headphone jack, the amp itself was better. Not the DAC. The DAMP is good. Did I say the DAMP? The DAC is really good, but the amp is just not amazing. It'll totally drive stuff like an IE300 or something like that, but it's not like the best thing out there. Anyway, that's all I really want to say for this. This is part of Thank You guys for watching Thanks for Support. Do you have a 1 Mark III, a 1 Mark II, a 5 Mark II or 3? Let me know in the comment section below how you feel about this video and what you've done to overall make your experience better in the comment section below. Like the video if you like it. I really do appreciate the support, and have a good one.